Well, look at this. It's not a tour course. But that doesn't mean we've magically gotten a good course either. No, the fun here dries up like the desert pretty quickly for this course. I'm also guessing that I might get a few disagreements with this choice. So let me just lead off with, I'm often not a big fan of desert levels in pretty much any game. So I'm definitely coming in with a bit of a bias here, I'll admit it. That being said, I feel like it tried to be an interesting desert course that just ended up missing the mark. Bone Dry Dunes is a course in the Special Cup, which means that this was in the OG Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, even before the original DLC. So sadly, this also makes it the worst OG course. And part of the issue I take with this is the fact that it's in the Special Cup. Most of the challenge that comes from this course is the curves. You really make wave-like turns back and forth here, which is strange because by doing so, it fails to really properly appeal to the top speed karts or to the karts that make sharper turns. Which, that in itself is rather strange to do, so props I guess for pulling that off. The problem is, the result of this course ends up actually being less challenging than you'd expect out of the Special Cup, and also because it's a kind of a dry desert, not all that flashy either. We're also given little of the cool mechanics that makes Mario Kart 8 so interesting. There's one optional anti-gravity section, which is what, like 7 seconds of driving? Which, just to emphasize, is optional. That's all folks, and you will likely pass by depending on your kart layout. I personally am a fan of incorporating it more often on a track, even more so if the player doesn't have to ever use it. Though giving the option really is better than not having it at all. The other limited feature is the glider, which is one of those near the end to show off the cool showpiece type of glides. It's not really a cool showpiece, and honestly, depending on the angle you're flying from, it's hard to even see the showpiece, which in this case is a big dry Bowser cliffside entry point. Speaking of showpieces, let's talk about the visuals. I am a big fan of the starting area. It almost looks like they made use of a bazaar for a racetrack. But around the bend you are then greeted by some sand ships, which is also a cool idea. The problem though is most of the flashiness just kind of drops off. It starts looking more and more like a plain desert canyon, full of sand and rock. The rocky canyon sides look like they're supposed to be red rocks, and given the slight Bowser motif, I would have loved to have seen brighter, more vibrant red sands to go with it. The sunset here doesn't really help either. Normally the sunset offers a nice contrast to the overall terrain, but in this case it just makes everything dimmer. Which again, normally looks great, but instead most of the track and its surroundings are just kind of brown. Unsurprisingly, I'm not a big fan of the whole boring brown track look. The reddish-orange cliff sides look browner than they should. The track is browner than it should. It's just a little much. Even something cool like the sandfalls are made less impressive by the color choices. Like, total disclosure here, I think a more vibrant color choice would have just bumped this course up significantly, out of the F tier at the very least. I must admit, it's a clever choice to use the bone piranha plants over the normal ones as traps. Though I think the amount of piranha plants in Mario Kart 8 is a little much to begin with, so it loses some points for me there too. The effort to at least make them feel a little bit different doesn't go unappreciated at least. There are also a couple of options for shortcuts, one of them being between the sand ships, which requires a mushroom and is an easy option to get when you're behind, but doesn't get you overly far ahead. And then of course, the high road after the glider section, which I'm less big on. I generally don't mind shortcuts that are tricky to get onto, which you do need to be coming from the right angle to really efficiently get onto this one. However, I'm less of a fan of ones that dump you off really awkwardly, which this one does by dumping you off at the turn of the main road. On top of that, there's a bunch of dry bones wandering around as additional obstacles, which makes it more annoying. Like usual, the music being played in the background is also the soundtrack in this race, and it's very deserty. It's not awful or anything, and it's in fact a decent tune, but it doesn't stick out either. Overall, I'm sure I really just wanted a little more to let this course pop on its own, or maybe just move it down to the Star or Flower Cup. But since that's not the case, I'll leave it in 94th place. Don't forget to subscribe and don't miss out for tomorrow's pick.